Hello and welcome back to the channel. I've talked on this channel several times about immigration and its linkages with Brexit in the UK. And this topic is back on the agenda at the moment, as last week the UK government announced that it would be processing asylum seekers in Rwanda. So I thought this topic was worth a bit of a discussion on this channel. And I know what some people might say, well, that's domestic policy, what does that have to do with negotiation? And the answer is it does have quite a lot to do with negotiation. And I will talk through the reasons why. For anyone new to this channel, I am the collaborative negotiator. I'm a professional negotiator of over 10 years of experience negotiating international issues. And so this sort of topic is the sort of thing that I would look at, analyse its impact, and advise people accordingly on how to proceed with the strategy. So let's have a little dive into this topic. I suppose the first question worth asking is, why does this Rwanda policy matter? But before I do answer that question, let's get the obvious out of the way. So the UK government has announced that it will take asylum seekers who arrive in the UK, immediately put them on a plane to Rwanda and process their application over there. This policy is completely and utterly bonkers. It won't work. It's a complete failure even before it got off the ground. For anyone who even thinks this is a good idea, you've got to be really brain dead. There is nothing commendable about this policy whatsoever. And arguably, it isn't intended to succeed. So many people will point out that Boris Johnson had rolled out this policy at the time when he is just about to face incredible scrutiny on Partygate scandal and the fact that he had lied to Parliament. So to use perhaps the political jargon, this policy is the throwing a dead cat on the table. So it is there as a distraction. But let's park that to the side for now, because regardless of whether you think there is no intention to actually implement this policy, there still remains consequences from the UK government advertising and saying that it has this policy. So one of the important things to understand in international negotiations is that all governments come to a negotiation table from a position of representing the country, representing the state. So to do that, you have a certain element of credibility, and I talk about credibility a lot on this channel because it is important. And one of the key aspects to credibility is having the moral high ground. Even if it's not true, you should always be seen as somebody who's acting with integrity, with decency, because that strengthens your negotiation position. And that is extremely important at government level negotiations, because at the end of the day, when nation states negotiate with each other, they have to do so from a position of trust and a position of belief that the other side are credible and will adhere to their promises. Now, I know what people might say, that the UK being seen as trustworthy right now, post-Brexit, is a bit of a joke, unfortunately. So this Rwanda policy feeds into that narrative. It feeds into the international narrative that the UK cannot be trusted. The UK is refusing to act with integrity, to treat asylum seekers in a morally appropriate way, and then hatched a quite ludicrous plan to basically just deport people without processing, which by the way is illegal under international law, but never mind. So now, of course, this is not just an isolated issue, because the UK government is already seen as non-compliant with international law in terms of the dispute over the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is still ongoing. The UK government is still making noise about it. So when you couple issues like that with this Rwanda policy and treatment of asylum seekers and their human rights, then it becomes quite clear as a narrative that the UK is not to be trusted on immigration. So that is why this Rwanda policy matters. It is not just about immigration, because that attitude will spill over onto other issues. It could be about security, it could be about trade, there's a whole host of other things that other nations will now look at the UK in a less than positive light because they fundamentally, morally do not agree with this immigration policy. So let's move back to the next question, is what will be the impact of the UK having this sort of policy in terms of internationally? Make no bones about it. I said this policy is complete rubbish. It'll make no impact whatsoever to UK immigration numbers, nor is it intended to, quite frankly. It's just there, the distraction is there to appease the racists in the UK. It won't actually achieve anything whatsoever. So, but what it does mean is that other countries will not invite the UK to the meetings. And this is important, particularly within Europe, because a lot of the immigration comes through Europe on the way to the UK. And you can already see this in the attitude of France, for example, because they, I suppose not too strong a word to use, they despise the UK government. And I make a specific point of saying UK government, not UK population. One hopes they don't despise the UK population, but they certainly do despise the UK government. And so simply put, they just won't invite them to the meeting when trying to tackle issues of immigration. For comparison, for anyone who still has any lingering doubts, Germany currently has, or last I heard, was over 300,000 refugees from Ukraine. They estimate that they will have 1 million Ukrainian refugees coming into Germany. Poland already has over 1 million Ukrainian refugees in country. Those are genuine refugee problems. And those countries are having to try and find ways of coordinating to tackle and address those issues, to help feed, clothe, look after that many people. And the UK should be a partner. We may not be part of the European Union anymore, but it doesn't mean that the UK should not have a role as a regional partner in supporting those countries in managing their problems. That is what friendly allied nation states do. But the reality is that Poland, Germany and all the other members of Europe will have those meetings and specifically not invite UK government to them, especially Boris Johnson and especially Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, because they're not seen as credible, they're not seen as important, and they are seen as obstructive and destructive to achieving any kind of meaningful progress. Of course, UK officials at lower level will attend those meetings to take notes, to support in some sort of low-level way. But as far as many countries are concerned, the UK is not a player here. The UK made it very clear it doesn't want to be supportive, it doesn't want to take sufficient numbers in, it doesn't want to do the right thing. And as a consequence of that, the UK will not get a say in immigration flows across Europe. So if many thousands of asylum seekers, whether Ukrainian or of any other nationality, happen to be clustered around Calais and other areas trying to get to the UK, the attitude of various officials is going to be pretty much let them go over, because as far as they're concerned, the UK is not doing its part. The UK has barely taken a few thousand refugees. It certainly hasn't taken 1 million like any of the other countries have. And the UK is deliberately putting policies into place that obstruct the ability of Ukrainian refugees to get into the UK. I know there's been a lot of political noise about this, and Priti Patel's had to apologise for it. But the reality is when you create a system that's deliberately designed to be slow and cumbersome and obstructive, it's very hard to suddenly undo that and speed up the process. So that system is working as intended, except suddenly the UK government has found it not what should be happening when you're meant to be processing Ukrainian asylum applications. So internationally speaking, the UK credibility on immigration is completely and utterly shot. And that means that when UK government officials try to negotiate ways of managing flows, they're just going to be ignored. They're not going to have a valid voice at the table. So here's to the next question. So how else would the UK lose out? Because it would not just be attendance at the meetings. There are two things worth mentioning here. I've covered in previous videos. Right now, one of the things that Brexit had really exposed is how much harm is caused to an economy when you cut down migration flows. People who come to the country to work, essentially. Whether they could be asylum seekers, refugees, economic migrants, whatever the term you want to use. Those individuals coming into a country with a desire to build a life, to build a career, and to be productive helps economies. And Brexit has very much exposed this, because in the immediate aftermath of Brexit actually being implemented, the UK suddenly had a huge worker shortage. These were all the people that weren't paid a lot, but did a lot of important work in numbers, picking fruit and vegetables, processing meat, working at logistics centres, whatever it may be. Generally speaking, not the nicest of jobs, but still in sufficient numbers, very important to allowing the economy to carry on working, to function effectively. And Brexit exposed the fact that when you cut all that off, whether intentionally or unintentionally, you create a massive ripple effect in your economy. So, as a result of the UK trying to act tough on asylum seekers, which legally speaking it should not be doing, then it's simply refusing to allow these individuals to come and work in the UK economy. Right at a time when the UK economy is in dire straits and badly needs more workers at low pay who will come and do those menial but important tasks. So very much the UK is fighting itself, economically speaking. That is one reality. There is also another dimension to this worth highlighting. It's been very obvious that all of Europe, US and various other aligned nations have placed very severe economic sanctions on Russia as a result of them invading Ukraine. And those economic sanctions are really going to hit the Russian economy very hard. They're going to find it difficult to import important materials. They're going to find it difficult to get money. They're going to find it difficult to get technical know-how to do the important things that they need, not just in a military sense, but in terms of the industrial base, in terms of science and all the other things that any normal economy relies upon. But what people haven't talked much about, although various economists, and including videos on YouTube, have pointed this out, that there's also reverse happening in Russia. Right now there's a massive migration of people out of Russia. So if you are a young individual, you are educated, you have skills, talent, a desire to work, Putin's Russia right now is a very unappealing place to be. So a lot of young Russians are trying to get out, essentially. And that represents a huge, even possibly more damaging consequence to Russia than the sanctions will. Because all those people represent future capabilities for Russia. They're the future workers, they're the future scientists, engineers, all the things that Russia will need, particularly if Russia is cut off from global supply chains. Because when you're cut off from global supply chains, you need decent expert people within your own country who will fix problems and make things work. And as many of them as possible are leaving because they do not like the direction that Putin is taking them. So the economic term, to use an economic term, there's a massive outflow of human capital. So all those individuals, those young Russians, will be looking to go to other places. They'll be looking to Europe. Some of them perhaps might even be looking to go to the UK. And for the smart political leaders who realise this, they will suddenly realise that there's a double weapon they can use against Russia here. Not only can they place economic sanctions on Russia, they can steal Russia's future high-value workforce and put them to use in their own economies. So coming back to the UK, well, the UK has a very strong anti-immigration stance right now, mostly aimed at those lower level I should say, but even those with high technical skills who should be in high demand will not entirely feel encouraged to come to the UK right now, shall we say, due to the public messaging, due to the cumbersome visa system, and so on. So again, right now, when the UK economy is struggling to attract talented workforce as a consequence of Brexit, as a consequence of the unappealing environment that the UK has created, or the UK government, I should say, has created, then they will also not be able to take advantage of these skilled technical Russians that want to leave the country, want to go somewhere else to work, raise a family, have a career, and so on. So again, the UK, by having such a thing as a Rwanda policy, sent a clear message to everybody, not just, poor asylum, seekers, and you're not welcome. Doesn't matter what skills you have or knowledge you have. I mean, can you imagine some young Russian come into the UK, so say by a little bit of an illegal channel, or even Ukrainian, and then they get deported to Rwanda for processing? That just doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. And there's a final point I also want to make. I've alluded to before that this is not a policy intended to succeed. But what it is, if it actually is even half implemented, and I have to use that very reservedly, it is a massive cost. 120 million reportedly that program is going to cost. And I can tell you right now that I doubt very much that they will process even more than 2,000 asylum seekers via that route. So the UK government is essentially spending 120 million to process less than 2,000 applications in that way. That does not in any way, shape or sense represent value for money. By the same token, the UK government is spending many more millions trying to have security at Calais and so on to stop immigrants coming across the UK border and over the channel and so on. That is a phenomenal amount of money. So if you're the sort of individual that would rather the government doesn't waste your money, and if you're the sort of individual that believes the government should work hard against allowing immigration in, then you need to examine those two direct conflicts. Because the government is literally spending many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, per asylum seeker to keep them out. It would be far better value to the UK taxpayer if you literally took them in and just looked after them, just paid for them. It would be cheaper than what the government is trying to do right now on a per asylum basis. So I would encourage anyone to think about that if they have strong views against immigration. So, as a final question to this video, what would be my proposed solution? I've talked about having the moral high ground as a negotiation. So that is one thing I would say that the government needs to do. It needs to take the initiative and establish its position on the moral high ground. And possibly the easiest way to do that would literally be for the UK government to just send truckloads people over to Calais, or where all the immigrants are trying to illegally cross. Well, not illegal, I shouldn't use that term. Trying to get across, and just literally put them on the trucks, put them on the train, Eurostar, whatever, take them over to the UK, and you know what? Just treat them humanely. Just process their application, establish if those are credible applications, and then put them into a decent program where they've got housing, where they can be sustained for a short while and benefits whilst being encouraged to look for a job in the UK, which the UK badly needs right now. It needs more of those people looking for the jobs, looking to fill them, and do the things that the UK is suffering critical shortages of right now. So that would be my first solution. I'd also talk about completely overhauling the immigration system and encouraging far more flows of people who just want to work, who want to come to the UK and be productive, because quite frankly that is what they all want to do. The current policy is complete and utter ludicrousness. So I hope you found that interesting, and I look forward to seeing the comments below.